Recording. All right, we are back here. I think our first round number two with Pat Muirragui. How's it going?
Going well, Jeff. Good to see
Yeah,
you. Always great to chat.
sunny California. I can see
It,
sun beaming off your face right now, which is
it's actually pretty
yeah,
sunny today.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Pat was here a few months ago. If I was a good podcast host, I would have numbers and everything like that, but I don't. But we talked about the diagnostic thing to improve the implementation experience. That's what the thing was, and it's funny because that's the implementation experience today. Uh, I'm just laughing because we've been dying to record this one particular topic for a long time, and then we have a special announcement at the end of this to talk about. But we talk a lot in my podcast and articles online, LinkedIn, and everything about like the handoff and the pre-sales and then the kickoff and then the actual implementation. We never talk about go lives, which is just like everything gets real. And um, and as Pat knows, because he's just in it every day now, if there's some stuff that you don't do, it's hard, right? Engagements go long. Uh, you're supporting them for life. Like it's just, yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Or the opposite, where the customer never goes live and they keep telling you next month, next month.
oh, and the finance team's like, we can bill them, right? And you're like, we did all our stuff, so sure, send the bill. Oh man. So let's take this from the top. I think we have a document that we put together. We meaning Pat and me with like one or two live, but there's a whole bunch of things to go through, and we should probably turn this into a checklist that we'll talk about in an environment that we'll roll out later. But why don't you walk me through this? Because I view this as something that you probably have internal and have your teams going through it, and it's pretty extensive, and a lot of stuff has to go wrong if you follow this checklist, and you still can't have a good go live. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. So yeah, the sheet that I had or the list that I had initially shared is really it's really a collection of 6 years of taking customers live and having things go wrong.
Oh, 100%. I've learned everything from breaking it, my friend.
Yeah, so you learn the lessons. Those hard lessons are sometimes the best lessons
Oh yeah.
to learn. So really, it's a collection, and I think you said it right. Where go to have a great successful go live. I mean, you need the right team. And it's also a buildup, right? So you need to have it, and when I say a buildup, it really starts the momentum, the initial beginning of the wave, if you will, starts in pre-sales.
Yeah.
So in pre-sales, right, having good pre-sales discovery call really sets the tone,
Yeah.
builds a relationship with a customer, captures all that information from all these different stakeholders that they have on their side,
Yeah.
from product and engineering. And so that leads to a successful internal handoff and then an external kickoff, a good planning session, a good development cycle, a great testing cycle, and then finally you get to this deploy stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
And you guys are deploying large enterprise applications.
huge,
Yeah.
huge,
Huge.
top tier banks, biggest banks in the world. We take them live, and that's, you're trying to coordinate, with a handful of folks on our side, and I'll get to who those people are, with multiple teams on their side. And at times, we're on the call and we hear them kind of squabbling back and forth on who should be doing what. And
Yeah.
that gets kind of interesting, but we kind of help them. We help them too, and we give them suggestions, and the list that we'll go through. Those are things that we actually write down, and today we actually provide through some tooling. And we've talked about tools. You can use any kind of tool. I think the biggest thing is actually being able to collaborate on the tooling and mark things off and check things off and add notes and add questions, and you can see where stuff has been.
Yeah. And on that note too, and I usually try and take a pretty agnostic view on the tooling, but I think if you're doing standard implementations, you could skate by for a little while with Google Sheets and whatnot. Doing what you're doing, I would definitely use a collaborative tool, the tools that are out there, Even if it's Basecamp, right, which I don't think people are allowed to use anymore based on some bad moves that they made. But it's an environment where customers log in and they see what they have to do and what they need to do next and make decisions, and you're not trapped in email and Slack and all that other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so right. That's the worst. It's not really searchable. It's not, it starts to become pretty clunky and it doesn't scale well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the tooling, we use Smartsheet. We turned to that this year, but we used to have, in our developer hub, which is used a lot during the development cycle, we would post up a sheet, a list, and we would say, hey, here's the list, go take a look, and hope that goes well. And then we started kind of getting a little bit smarter about it, going, okay, we want to see them check the boxes, so that we know that that's been done.
Yeah.
But so just kind of going back and just kind of going through the list here, like who's involved on our side, and really, in the beginning, it's primarily the solution architect.
Yep.
And then we have what we call a customer onboarding manager, which is a real a kind of a new role that we've had over the last year and a half, and it's served us. It's worth its weight in gold. That role really drives the project.
Yeah. Are they doing? So I've seen this role do two separate things. One is more of the configuration management and going in and clicking some buttons and levers, and the other is kind of more on the project management type of side.
Yeah, it's more project management, but I would say that it really depends on the tooling and how you're set up. For us, all the controls are actually owned by our support team and our cloud operations team.
Okay.
So to make sure that to get that done or communicate those, we have some tools that we use from our CRM and that will initiate requests and they'll go there. So we need to make sure that those are done. But the COM, we call the COM, it's also, an engagement manager, but really driving the project, managing escalations. If we hit some hiccups along the way, and who's got to run back the product and, make sure they get that one answer, who's in charge of it. It's the COM, who's really on point to make sure that, they get to the launch pad and they get live. I mean, that's really up to that COM, that's their role.
Just a quick question, because this always pops up when you have these types of larger engagement. Is the CSM involved, or do they get introduced post go live?
Great question. So we transitioned from having a solution architect and a customer success manager to a solution architect and a COM. After we hit a certain point, post go live, then the COM will switch out. They'll do a handoff with the CSM.
Yeah.
And the success person comes in, and now that, hey, this thing's in flight, now we can go and we can, make sure we can go around and we can say, hey, how's everything going? Let's track KPIs. Upcoming maintenance coming, heads up. So that's a great question. It depends on what your model is, really, right? If you can get up and running and get live quickly, then I would say then a customer success manager might show up on go live, or you might even have all three during the entire engagement. It really
those strategy questions and things like that, and
do what's fitting for us today. We have a series of it's usually solution architect, customer onboard manager, and then post go live, and a little bit, like I'm talking a couple months down the road, it ends up being then what we call a TAM, a technical account manager, and then a CSM together, and they end up kind of running the rest of the cycle for the customer.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that model, especially with these larger key enterprise types of customers that you have there. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
So all right. So the folks. So those are the primary folks, and then on the secondary side, we've got some other folks from the cloud operations team. We actually have another team called the App Ops team, which is also part of the cloud team, and then customer support. And these are the folks really, they're super important as well. They're in the background. They've got their hands on the controls. So as a solution architect and as a even a COM, nobody has any really hands on the dial for production, on production, or even the sandbox environments.
Okay.
So, and that's just the way that we've designed it, and that works fine. So yeah, so those are the folks. Went over kind of the prerequisites, and hopefully, as you have gone through this process, what's really important is that you've developed a good relationship with this customer, right? Yeah. And then when I say customer, it's like it's the many folks that they have, and that could be a team of 3. It could be teams of teams.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully you've gone in there, you've established a single point of contact, and so hopefully you have that on the right, because that really helps as you go all the way through, and obviously the entire life cycle of a customer, but of course that's a bigger conversation. But getting back to the go live, when you get to, we call it the deploy phase. We used to call it the go live phase. They were just semantics. When we called it deploy, it was a little more accurate, because it wasn't like don't celebrate yet. It's like got to get the deployment, then you hit go live, and the go live is actually
until a rocket is launched, do you celebrate?
Exactly. Yeah. So the that's funny you mentioned the rocket launching, because that analogy really lives to me today. It's a silly one, but I use it with my team all the time. It's like, let's get the rocket to the launch pad.
Yep.
We can only get to the launch pad if we've done all these great things before.
Yep.
Once we get to the launch pad, let's make sure we've got a plan. And then when the engines fire up and they're going, right, and then the rocket's launching, that's probably the most critical time during this go live, because a lot of things can go wrong. And, if expectations aren't set, and even in real life, like that's one of the most dangerous times that, and critical times where, when a rocket's trying to get up in an orbit, getting out of the atmosphere. Right. And so we think of the same thing, and it's like, let's get that rocket, get it up, get it into orbit. And, now we're live.
It's so true. Because I mean, just, with so many, commerce launches that I had, it's getting into that atmosphere and maybe doing one orbit around, because you can go live and then suddenly like it crashes because you've got too much traffic, or, oh my God, this one critical bug that nobody would, somebody took a path that was not, all that stuff happens. So
happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's how do you best manage that? But not to get ahead of ourselves here, just going. So one of the first things as you exit the testing phase is to, and you go into the deploy phase, is hold a launch plan session.
Okay.
We bring together and say, okay, who's going to be in charge? Let's come together, let's plan. And that's really where we go, and we give them this templated list, and we say, here's the everything. Let's start crossing things out, and let's start adding new things on that are relevant for you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those things are, and I'll just kind of run through the list here. So sign offs that they need, right? There's other folks on their side that they need to check boxes to make sure that, hey, they're ready to go. Production credentials, for example, right? They've got to go through a provisioning process. They've got to have security. A lot of times we get held up because, the security team didn't come and, they didn't do
their SOC 2 compliance check, right?
Yeah, right. All those checks that need to be done typically that's from any kind of security or compliance team. But they need to make sure that check off the box and know that, hey, this is the day. That's another thing, is agree on an actual day. Like we will be going live at this time, during the day, or whatever, at this hour.
Yeah.
Worst time to go live, Friday. Learn that.
Tuesday at 4 a.m. is what I used to have to do for commerce launches. Is just get up in the morning and launch that thing and see what happens.
Right. Watch her go. I would say early to midweek is probably best, because then you've got the whole week to kind of get that thing in orbit and get it in orbiting and smooth.
And I'll just throw in because this has happened to me more times than I like to think. Like launching on a Friday, something goes wrong and your critical devs are on it, like, sorry, I'm at a wedding this weekend. I can't do anything about this. Like, oops.
Right. I mean, everybody, right. A lot of people, and just being respectful of everybody's time. People got stuff going on during the weekend, and nobody wants to be stuck chasing bugs over the weekend, trying to get the project live. So we try to as best encourage go lives, earlier during the week, but unfortunately sometimes that does happen.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is understanding the day of. If so, the converse of this is, you show up at Monday at the checkpoint and the customer says, "Oh yeah, well we went live last weekend," or "We went live last Friday." Yeah, we well, we didn't tell you.
Yeah, we were just deploying and it looked good, so we just switched all the traffic over here.
Yeah. But at times it might be, oh, we didn't even get you the production credentials. So you're live on Sandbox. Okay.
Oh,
that's
God.
great. And that's happened too. So important, and when you go over this planning session to hit the day, and also the rollout plan that they're going to do. Right. So when I say rollout plan, like you might have a contract with this customer that says, we're going to give you 1 million transactions this year,
Yep.
but day one will not be, the 1 million transactions. Right. And so it's almost like turning on the spigot, for like a, water faucet. First, you do kind of 10%, take a check, make sure everything's running smoothly, and then kind of open up the aperture. So usually it's like a 10, 25%, 50%, and hopefully 100%.
Yep.
That might take months. It might take weeks. It might take days. Ideally you want days, but and the customer too, they're gaining confidence in the product. Cause even though that, you've had your best, you gave them the best story, they've done some testing, they had a great proof of concept. There's still this, hey, how well is it going to work? Does it work while you're going live? They're looking at that.
Let's take one thing there, because the thing that I always had, or continually will, every time on services stuff, problems with is getting the people to test the application. Oh yeah, we went in and we looked at it. What strategies do you put in place to make sure that there's been thorough UAT?
So at the end of UAT, we have some sample test plans that we provide the customers. Yeah. And because we have multiple points of integration, we'll provide them unit tests, and then we'll also give some suggestions for end-to-end testing, which requires like end users, like real end users.
Okay.
So we'll ask them to do that. We can actually look and see different transactions. So we can see in the back end what they've run, and we can see how much testing that they've actually done on their side. And so that's how we get kind of a feel. We're getting a little better at this. One of the things that we want to do is actually provide them a module to say, hey, run this thing on your side, and it'll exercise a lot of different scenarios.
Cool. That's great.
Yeah. So we're getting to that point right now, but yeah, it is important to get them to test, to encourage them at the end of but here's another thing that we do is at the end of the user acceptance, we ask for a demo. We're like, show us what you built.
I've heard this from some other people recently. I loved it. I wish I had done it back in the day. You demo it off to us now, like you're showing your executives. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And so during that time, we're also looking and we're able to go in there and critique and add, of course, positive feedback and, hey, move this button over here. And, you might want to change the verbiage there, and we'll give them some examples of what, I'm talking to like user. For us, what we're seeing is user experience screens, right? The way that our product works, there's like a user journey, super important. And what does that user journey look like? And, how are they managing errors and things like that? So that really is a kind of a good litmus test there to see what have they done, how much testing that they've done.
Okay.
And that usually gets us some confidence that, the launch will hopefully go well and they can get to a good live status.
Yeah. Well, I know something on our list that we learned the hard place in like 2008, but the app approvals, right? That is difficult, right? Because that APK, like the keys and the dev certificates and all that.
Yeah. So the app approval. So the laundry, continuing on the laundry list here, the provisioning so first of all, there's provisioning on our side, right? Yeah. And so we've got a couple, nuts and bolts and things like that go into the production, on our software development kits and even on the app. So like, We have licenses that sit on the client side SDK. So on the mobile apps themselves, we have licenses that are there, and those some of them need to be renewed. Some of them are specific to certain environments. And so we want to make sure that they actually, when they get those, they put those in the right environments, and that those are, organized and inserted in the right place.
Yeah.
Mutual auth certificates. So that's server to server communication. If they have message level encryption, they want to make sure that stuff in sandbox is just not copied over to production. If something in production, I mean, that's really important. Like, make sure you got the production version on the production environment and not have, the wires crossed there.
Yeah.
That's a common thing that happens. And then getting to the App Store approval, because if we have different versions and different channels of our products, and the native version, of course, needs to be approved by those. Now, some customers can't go live until those are actually approved.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a launch day and they're stuck in approval for whatever reason. That might take a couple of days. It might delay the launch. Yeah. So which is not uncommon. I'll touch on that a little bit, like a push launch, not an uncommon thing. But so the provisioning, getting that taken care of, them promoting the code from their environment to environment, understanding how they operate is really important.
And is your architect kind of shepherding them along the way?
He's asking the questions, going, hey, what environment are you going to be moving from your sandbox environment to the production environment? And they might say, yeah, but we call it staging, or we call it something else. But just to get an understanding how long, what they need to do and how long that takes. That's really important.
Yeah.
There's only so much that you can see, but by asking these questions, you understand how they're operating on their side. Right. And so once all that's done, what's really important too before launch is to run a smoke test. We call it a smoke test, but it's basically get on production, send through some transactions. Let's see if we can see them on the other side.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the health of those, right? Like if the licensing's wrong, then on our side, we might see data that's got some asterisks or something in it, right? And so there's little things that we look for that are particular to us to say, okay, smoke test looks good. Nothing's burning up. And so that gets us launch ready. The other thing too is the support piece. So we've actually aggregated a bunch of information for, hey, once you go live, what do you do? Who do you contact? Who are going to be what's going to happen next? So we put together like a support flyer. It's like a PDF, just a flyer that we send them. It can be in any kind of format that you want, or any kind of communication. I mean, it could be an email, but we send it to them. It's got the support numbers. It's got the red alert, red phone number in case it really goes wrong. Hopefully they don't use it. Their customer success manager that's going to be up and coming. The common and the solution architect, our folks hang on there for a little while. They don't leave right away, but it's like, hey, if you need to open up a ticket, here's how you do it. Here's the support hours of operation. We have a follow the sun model, so there's always somebody there at the helm.
Are they not being introduced until the live? Maybe a different subject, but I like encouraging getting the customers start using customer support for customer support type requests instead of relying on your tech team for customer support, because then it's harder to move them over to using the support team.
That's a good point. I think we've done that kind of on demand. But at a minimum, we do, here are the contacts, here's the number. But it's good if you've got a customer support regional lead or somebody, it's good to say, here's your point person, on the customer side. Which is a really important, another point is gathering their contacts. So as we've done the work, we're going to go live, we're going to launch. What happens a lot of times is you'll see transition on the customer side. The product team might move around. Those developers are not necessarily assigned to this project always and forever.
Right.
They'll move on to the next integration, the next project, and they'll be gone. So what we like to encourage is we need we want to have contacts for support, any maintenance and product updates, like, hey, our product is, we got a new version coming out, or the endpoint's going to be revised, or there's going to be change on this endpoint, heads up. Any of their to let them know that like maintenance is beginning, maintenance is ending in certain windows.
Yep.
And so what we like to do, not only get emails, but we ask them to actually form email groups. That's the best
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, because even on their side, right, you've got a customer.
You mean distribution list, just for people, just an email distribution list that they're creating. So you send it to one group. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because they're going to cycle through. That's an important thing. Who's there today is not going to, is a guarantee the team is going to shift in 6 months.
Oh yeah.
Even a year, and every 6 months, people are going to leave and new people are going to come. So it's, hey guys, please manage your distribution list. Ideally, that's what we want. We don't always get it, but we encourage that. It's a real important one. And for those, for those buckets, for maintenance, and also for product updates. Yeah.
That's important. Now, I think next is launch day. Was it you that was telling me you treat launch day like like the surgery? Like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're operating on the left side of the left leg.
So we have a pre-launch checkpoint, which is like it's like the pre-op. Like, hey, okay, are you ready to go? We're gonna go over here. We got the little black marker. We got the Sharpie pen. We're gonna X out the leg that we're not doing.
Oh my god! Yeah. Yet people still get wrong side surgeries all the time.
It's similar. It's similar to that. The other thing on that day too is that we open up a war room, which today is probably not the best term, but we open up a mission control room.
Yeah.
In the mission control, we bring everybody.
Is this a physical room, or is this like a Teams, Microsoft Teams or Slack room or something?
Virtual. Yeah. It could be a Slack channel. It could also be a Zoom bridge. It's really what the customer is.
I'm just envisioning you in a place with like 15 monitors. It's like the show 24, and they're just kind of banging away on terminals. And
well, that's really our cloud ops and NOC teams. They're doing that. They're looking at that. They've got deeper level tools. Like, we can see some things come in at certain levels, but our operational teams, they're able to see like things at the component level, like this hit the API, this hit the back end, service engine. And so they can see things at a real low level. And so those are the guys with the 20 monitors that are sitting there in the room. Yeah. But we have a higher level mission control where we'll have somebody from support, we'll have, the comm, the PS, and we'll have folks on their side. And, and it'll be literally like, okay, we're about ready to turn it on. We've turned it on. And then we can look and we can confirm transactions actually come through.
Yeah.
So it's to that detail. Now, some customers don't, they don't want that, or maybe they'll just do it like, hey, we're going to start at this time and we'll send you some messages over Slack. That works too. Mm-hmm. I think the important thing is, have the right folks in there in case something goes wrong. Something can go wrong, and you want somebody on the controls right away. You don't want to have to open tickets and wait for others to, pick it up and notice it.
I have to imagine that since you're working with like banks and security and their security teams, which I've been through, is just ridiculous amounts of stuff, that they appreciate this level of detail for walking, because I certainly have launched stuff where it's me and a developer in a room, and we either, do you want to click the mouse, right? Like, so this is a lot.
They do, and we hear about that. We hear a ton of feedback from them. We get a lot of feedback on them.
Even in pre-sales, right? Like pulling out your project plan, like this is how it happens. People are like, whoa, they get their act together, right?
Yeah, they love the white glove treatment that we provide for them. And, again, it's learned experience over, a number of years, and just making it better, right? Just making it better, perfection by iteration.
Yep.
And we've had hundreds of go lives, and every, as I tell the team, and we come together and we talk about them, it's, hey, what have we learned new? And tell the rest of the team about it.
Yeah. No, those are great. Those we used to have the bi-weekly or the monthly meeting where somebody is the case study of walking through and retro. We never called them postmortems. We call them after parties. And
Yeah.
and we just like, let's walk through what worked and didn't work and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. So going back to launch day then.
Yep.
So we've got the activities, or we do the checkpoint, we open the war room, we hit the buttons hit, we're
Yep.
watching the transactions, we're looking at the health. Now we take to try to correlate also the success criteria, right? And that's what we're aiming for. So if the customer says, hey, we want to make sure that we've got out of our, we want to make sure that we have got 80% approval rate, right? That's just a little something for our business and our transactions. When you send something, you can get something approved or you can get something disapproved. So
Yep.
the success criteria is, hey, we want to see a 80 or 90% approval rate or whatever it is, right? And so when we're looking at the health monitoring, we're looking for those basic things that we always see, but also we're tying it into what the customer is actually expecting on their side, right? And so that's all that fun success criteria conversation. And then after, that, it's really, hey, how did we do at the end of the day? And then throughout the week, right? If you go live on that Monday or Tuesday, you got the whole week to actually go in there and check again and look, and the frequency will become, it'll become not so frequent as things get mature and healthy, and you've got confidence, and that's how you're inching towards that. You get to that orbiting live state.
You're right. Right. Yeah. No, that's great. That's very thorough too.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about some of these post go live activities, which is where all the fun starts, right? So
yeah, so a lot of it is measuring both externally, going back to those the health transaction. How are we doing? How are we measuring? Is it up to snuff what we have and what our goals are on our side, and then also the external optimization. Any chance to optimize at that point? I mean, it could be minor, it could be simple, really kind of, small controls there that fine tune, but you want to keep optimizing that. And if you got those really good, precise KPIs, then you'll see the optimizations there, hopefully make some changes there.
And you said your team's on for what? Do they burn in for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
It's really, the solution architect is there for another 30 days. We want to get really stability. I mean, we're not actually counting, exactly 30 days, but we want to look for stability in what they're doing. And then at that point, then the solution architect can roll off.
Right.
We want it to be 30 days, sometimes a little more, sometimes it's less.
Yep.
And then after that, the customer onboarding manager, he'll roll off, or she will roll off, and then it gets to a CSM and TAM. Yeah. So that's good. Here's another one, a good one that we do is send a survey. So we send a quick survey, not too long, but not too short. Just how did we do? What's one thing you liked? What's one thing you didn't like?
Yeah.
What can we improve? Would you recommend us to anybody, right? That NPS question. And so
are they rolling that into like their regular customer baseline scores after that and everything?
Yeah.
Cool.
They do. Okay. Yep. Right. And so that's something that, I think any success org really,
has to do.
That's key. It's heart and soul to that, and to the company,
Right.
And so, I think it's important too, when you're sampling that, because at go live, things could be great or not great.
Right.
And then if you take another measurement at 3 months or 6 months, you can say, well, gosh, we were great at live. What happened?
Right.
Or we weren't great and we did awesome and they turned it around. Now they're we came in with an MP, that we came in with a recommendation of 10. And so those are great learnings. And you can also, when you ask them too, when you're asking the surveys and you have like open, text boxes, and, you can say, hey, is it the team, or is it the product, or is it the program?
Because you can have great product, bad team.
Yeah.
Or bad team bad product, great team. And, that has a big swing on how some of those questions get answered. So,
or any combination of that. So that's important. So the survey is really good. The communication on the wind down, obviously the transitioning, the letting them know that, hey, the solution architect's going to be rolling off, so they don't, so their developers later on, 3 months down the road, they're not still sending emails to the solution architect
Yeah, well, I
asking
know.
questions about
Yeah.
that old deployment that they did.
Yeah, and then we talked about too, like especially if you've got set durations on these things, it's like we got to go live because solution architect rolls off on this date. So
Turns
yeah,
into a pumpkin and he's gone. Yeah.
you stole my saying. Oh my god, yeah, absolutely.
I think I got that one from you.
Yeah.
It's ingrained. It's ingrained. So yeah, the wind down, the roll off, and then the celebration
Right.
and celebrating internally. So we have we have a series of meetings. We have team meetings, we have group meetings, and we talk about it and we celebrate and we talk about what went good, what went wrong,
Yeah.
what can we improve. We have an internal we have like an internal like blog kind of
Yeah.
thing for the entire company. So posting up the go live, we call it go live announcement.
Yeah.
So we put it up there and we congratulate all the folks. And
Don't forget somebody's name on that list.
yeah, no, they don't like that.
You forget one data center.
Remember everyone. Yeah. But it takes a lot of hands, and it's really, this conveyor belt of, getting to the launch pad and building that rocket along the way and, having that thing take off. And,
So let me ask you this, because I know we're getting long. We have some other stuff to chat about. My worst nightmare is 6 months from now. You haven't heard from the customer. Everything's going great. Suddenly, we've got this bug. It's actually pretty big. Your team goes in and looks at it, and they say it's going to take probably like a month to fix. What's the scenario? Is your work warranted? Do you go in and fix it? Is there a certain time? This is a tough one. Yeah,
that is a real tough one. So if you go back and we made a mistake 6 months ago, or we didn't see that we didn't or we didn't have line of sight into something obscure like that. Right. We don't necessarily have a warranty. We have we have a master. A lot of it's in our service agreements and in the legal work that we have. I mean, we do everything to ensure success along the way at almost at any cost, within reason.
Right.
So we'll do everything to provide a workaround.
Okay.
If we can't get that workaround through the professional services team, then we'll see what product can do in terms of a hot fix.
Got it.
Yeah. Maybe the hot fix, maybe it's like, hey, not only is customer X seeing it, this other customer seeing it, and they don't know it yet, and we've got 10 other customers that don't know it.
Yeah, and for my other tips from that I bumped into, like, hey, did you change something? Did you go in and mess something in the code? Did you update a library that maybe is not supported? And that's where those things mostly happen. Either the product changes something, which throws everything 6 ways to Sunday, or you're using some open source plugin or library, and then next they change something, and then, or there's a security breach and you got to go replace it, and then. Yeah, it's tough stuff. And then I always usually try and abide by my golden rule of don't F with the ARR. So try and, right? Like, because what might cost your team $5,000 to fix, you're working on probably several $100,000 ARR licenses and stuff like that. So you have to get a little bit of perspective there. So.
Correct. Yeah. You got, you want to keep the ARR stream going. You want to keep the customer happy. You want to get that, you want to, renewals and things like that all come into consideration, right? And customers remember ugly things that happen.
Yeah.
That's one of they'll remember, that is a difficult thing, even when you get into success and they're successful. They remember, they might forgive, but a lot of them don't forget,
right.
Unless I leave the company. So we do everything that we can, hot fixes, PS there, calling meetings, and just care. Care about the customer and do everything you can. But we do, bugs is just, in software, like you said, things that we can control, but there's also things that we can't control.
Right.
Like for example, we have products that run on browsers.
Mm-hmm.
And so those browsers, we have no control over, what Apple just did, or what Google, what the Chrome team just
Yeah.
changed for a security reason, and now our product's not working.
Yeah.
And so we've got to go and say, okay, can we hop for, like, what can we do? And
Oh, yeah.
we triage it, and we've got, smart, a lot of times it's looking at the smart people, the developers and solution architects to figure out, what can be done.
Yeah, no, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, my
Yeah.
main product for a long time was Flash, which now I think if you
Oh,
use all
yeah.
your money goes over to Russia and stuff. But so okay, I think we covered a lot here. So this list here, let's talk about this. But you got a little checklist.
Yeah.
So Pat and my good friend Mark Holland, who I believe has been a guest as well too, have been bugging me for a few years. There used to be something called the PS Village, which to me was like the blue collar, like people who were doing it, asking all sorts of who's got an SOW template, what do you do about this? What do you do about just all the questions, right? And this community was awesome. Yeah, I think it survived the cut over to LinkedIn, but then based on some unfortunate scenarios with the people who were running it and health stuff, that it just kind of died away. And so this is something that we're putting back out there. We're going to get a Slack group going together, calling it ProServe SaaS, and it's just a community where ProServe people can go in. Sorry, you know why I'm laughing. I'm not going to say why, but it's not other communities. It's not management consultants. Pretty much not going to have customer success people there because they have a million other places where they can go and we love them. But there's a place where we just want to talk some shop every once in a while, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some CS-centric topics.
CS people aren't listening by now. They heard projects and
boring stuff. It's boring stuff for the CS group, which we love.
Yeah, and then we'll have like templates, and I'm gonna get a little web hosting thing just to try and put some of these things in because I've got just 20 years worth of templates and everything, right? So it's just for people who need help, just like we talked, and you should meet Brad one of these days, but people who they might be running a CS team, and then suddenly they're like, now you own ProServe, right? Or hey, Pat, you're a manager of this one group, now you're the manager of everything, right? And you've got pre-sales too, so we can answer pre-sales and that whole thing. So super excited about this. We'll have the links in the show notes, and we're going to start it organically and post a little bit about it, but love to have you join us, and we'll put the links in this, and nobody's selling anything, and I'll make sure of that, except for my company, of course, but no, I'm just kidding. But and we'll make sure that it's just a place where people can go and answer questions and ask questions and get together and stuff like that, because that's what we had. And I actually went into the LinkedIn group and was checking it out again. I was like, yeah, there's just good stuff. And then there was an old school forum like PHP hosted and things like that. But super excited about this. So Pat and Mark, thanks so much for pushing me to do this. I think we're going on like 2 years of me blowing it off. So now we're gonna do it. So yeah. Awesome. So Pat, thanks again. I'm gonna end the recording in 1 second, and then we'll close out. So thanks a lot. A lot of info there.
That was a great conversation. Loved it.
Thanks, man. Talk to you again.
Yeah.